National media react to Liverpool exhibition as Mohamed Salah revived Fai's self-belief and swagger. How the national media reacted to Liverpool's 4-0 win over Galatasaray in the Champions League on Wednesday evening. Job very much done. Liverpool romped their way into the last 8 of the Champions League by thumping Galatasaray 4-0 in their round of 16 second leg clash on Wednesday evening. Dominic Szoboszlai, Hugo Ekitike, Ryan Gravenberch and Mohamed Salah all found the target as the Reds wiped out last week's 1-9-0 defeat in Istanbul to set up a tie against holders Paris Saint-Germain in the quarter-finals. It made for a very satisfying night, and while the AHO was in attendance and provided our usual level of coverage, here's how the national media viewed an impressive result for Arne Slot's side. Paul Joyce, formerly of this parish, wrote in the Times about how Liverpool have now set the template for the remainder of their season. Just 3 days after displaying against Spurs so many of the frailties which have threatened to derail their entire season, Liverpool performed with an energy, self-belief and swagger to swat Galatasaray contemptuously aside, he says. Arne Slot would be the first to admit displays such as these have been few and far between, but this was an occasion when his side were all anyone has ever wanted them to be. It was also an exhibition of the fast-flowing football he actually wants his side to play. Of course, if there was a frustration, together with the fact that the scoreline could have been doubled, it is that it had taken a dramatic downturn in the first place to summon such an intoxicating response. Galatasaray's limitations were exposed, and in doing so, the synergy between the hosts and their supporters was restored. It is up to Slot's players now to ensure it remains in place. Andy Hunter, another ex-Eco employee, picked up on the same theme in The Guardian. Dominic Szoboszlai led the charge, as the Hungary captain has done throughout a season that could culminate in a final in Budapest Heel Pines. His fine opening goal levelled the tie on aggregate and convinced Liverpool of their superiority over opponents who have beaten them twice in Istanbul this season, but wilt without the raucous backing of Ali Sami Yen Stadium. Collectively, this must be the benchmark for what remains of a trying campaign. Anfield was more partisan than usual, with Galatasaray fans banned from the second leg following trouble away at Juventus in the playoff round. It did not take Liverpool long to assert their authority. Galatasaray were even quicker with the theatrics and time-wasting tactics. Richard Jolly of The Independent pointed out the impact of Mohamed Salah and a return to former glories. The Dutchman switched tactics to something of a 4-4-2, and the team changed tack, he scribes. This was much better. This was one of their best displays of the campaign. If it was like the Liverpool of old, what could have shaped up as further evidence of Mohamed Salah's decline instead became a cathartic evening for him. His was a throwback performance. At half-time, when Liverpool's dominance was not reflected by a one-goal lead, there was the possibility Salah's missed penalty would cost them. This threatened to be his last European game for Liverpool until he had a part in 3 goals in 11 minutes, capped gloriously. Lewis Steele, tapping away for the Daily Mail, highlighted the impact of the Anfield crowd on the match. Arne Slot, who has been ridiculed by some sections of the fan base in recent weeks, was a man on a mission, he writes. He was more animated than ever before, proverbially kicking every ball on the touchline and gesticulating wildly as if he had downed 10 energy drinks in the dressing room. There was a marked difference in the stands too. A missed chance where a player should really do better has sometimes prompted a negative reaction, whereas here it sparked one of encouragement. Do that again and it will end up in the goal, they thought. Anfield's atmosphere and negativity has been heavily criticised in recent weeks, with players themselves aggrieved, but, as always, if they put in the effort and play with this intensity, the crowd will always get behind the team and back them all the way. There was a marked difference in the stands too. A missed chance where a player should really do better has sometimes prompted a negative reaction, whereas here it sparked one of encouragement. Do that again and it will end up in the goal, they thought. Anfield's atmosphere and negativity has been heavily criticised in recent weeks, with players themselves aggrieved, but, as always, if they put in the effort and play with this intensity, the crowd will always get behind the team and back them all the way. Finally, the tall man Paul Gorst wrote in the EHO about how the old ground was able to flex its muscles once again. For a club whose European exploits are woven into its fabric, it's been far too long since Anfield enjoyed a Champions League night like this, he says. It's been nearly 4 years, in fact, since Liverpool last won a Champions League knockout game at home, and those famous nights the regulars here boast about have been quietly in danger of becoming consigned to history as a result. And while this comfortable 4-0 victory over an obstinate but ordinary Galatasaray won't stand the test of time like some of the genuinely extraordinary nights over the years, there was enough stardust sprinkled around to remind those who might have needed it of what can be produced at this ground on these sorts of occasions. Liverpool faces nightmare run of fixtures as PSG dates confirmed in Champions League. Liverpool will face Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League quarter-finals after beating Galatasaray 4-0 at Anfield, with a tough run of games awaiting Arne Slot's side. A gruelling sequence of 5 matches in 15 days lies ahead for Liverpool following the Champions League triumph over Galatasaray. The Reds bounced back from their 1-0 away defeat to the Turkish Giants in the first leg by dismantling them at Anfield. Arne Slot's side stormed into the quarter-finals with a commanding 4-0 victory over the Istanbul outfit. It proved an emphatic performance from Slot's men, who entered the fixture having suffered 2 losses to Okan Buruk's team in this year's competition. On this occasion, the Reds proved far too strong for them, drawing level through Dominik Szoboszlai's precise finish before Mohamed Salah squandered a penalty on the stroke of half-time. The Egyptian was able to atone for his mistake by curling in Liverpool's 4th after Hugo Ekitike and Ryan Gravenberch had both struck. The Reds will get a chance for revenge in the quarter-finals as they face reigning Champions League winners Paris Saint-Germain. Last season, Luis Enrique's outfit defeated Slot's side in a dramatic penalty shootout at Anfield before proceeding to claim the prestigious European trophy for the first time. Reports the Liverpool Echo both encounters against the French powerhouses will fall within a punishing run of fixtures. Between April 4th and April 19th, Liverpool must navigate 5 crucial matches. The run will kick off with the FA Cup quarter-final showdown against Manchester City on April 4th. This will be promptly followed by the first leg encounter against PSG in the French capital on April 7th. Post the first leg, it's back to the top 4 chase for the Reds as they welcome Fulham to Anfield on April 11th. 3 days later, Slot's squad will again grace the Anfield turf to host Enrique's team for the second leg, with a spot in the Champions League semi-finals at stake. Liverpool is scheduled to play the second leg on April 14th as the 15th marks the 37th anniversary of the Hillsborough tragedy. Consequently, Liverpool will face off against the Parisians on a Tuesday for both matches. The climax of this colossal run of fixtures will be the inaugural Merseyside derby at Hill Dickinson Stadium. It's a series of games that could potentially shape Liverpool's season. Victories across the board would see the Reds advance to the FA Cup and Champions League semi-finals, whilst losses in the cup ties, coupled with poor results in the 2 Premier League matches, could condemn Liverpool to a season without silverware, topped off by a potential failure to secure Champions League qualification. However, Slot won't be getting ahead of himself just yet, as the Reds take on Brighton on the south coast this weekend. This will be their last Premier League game before the March international break. A win could be crucial for Liverpool's ambitions of securing a top 4 finish, despite the palpable disappointment at Anfield when Liverpool didn't manage to overcome Spurs. The point earned from the encounter did propel the Reds into 5th place, which might suffice to secure a spot in next season's Champions League. Galatasaray boss blasts referee and makes Victor Osimhen claim after Liverpool defeat. Liverpool beat Galatasaray 4-0 at Anfield to win the Champions League, last 16 tie 4-1 on aggregate, as Okan Buruk blamed his team's poor performance and the stand-in referee. Galatasaray manager Okan Buruk identified the injury to Victor Osimhen as the pivotal moment in his side's Champions League downfall at Liverpool. He also expressed dissatisfaction with Paul Rakowski, who stepped in as referee after World Cup final official Simon Marciniak sustained an injury during the warm-up. Galatasaray's aspirations of defending their 1-0 first-leg lead from the round of 16 match in Istanbul were resoundingly quashed when they suffered a 4-0 defeat at Anfield on Wednesday. And Buruk stated it was perhaps one of the best games for Liverpool this season. The turning point for us from a psychological point of view was when we lost Osimhen through injury. When he was on in the first half, he was thinking of his arm too much during the game. him not being 100% hurt us in the transitions and how we press high up. At the beginning, we were a pressing team, but after the first half, Liverpool had higher confidence and we had lower confidence. Buruk was unimpressed with substitute referee Rakshulski, reports the Liverpool Echo, and added, "We were expecting one of the best referees in the world, but his replacement was one of the worst referees we have encountered. But it was a game Liverpool deserved to win, and I'd like to congratulate them. They have qualified, but in this game we couldn't do exactly what we wanted. I thought we played very bad, but I don't want to single out any player. When you're 1-0 down at half-time and your keeper has just saved a penalty, our performance should have been better in the second half, but it was even worse. Liverpool have a lot of experience and an away game here is not easy, but our away performances and home performances in the Champions League have been very different. Galatasaray endured another injury setback late on when substitute Noah Lang appeared to have sustained a severe thumb injury after it became trapped between two advertising hoardings whilst he tried to keep the ball in play. Lang is going to hospital, said Buruk. He has an issue with his finger. We will know what he has at the hospital, and if he needs an operation. Tottenham Hotspur Osimhen said his arm was hurting and he wanted to get out of the game at half-time, and he's going to the hospital as well. Liverpool prepare to fight Manchester United in battle to land new goalkeeper. Liverpool's goalkeeping department underwent a big change last summer. We saw Georgi Mamadashvili complete his long-awaited move from Valencia, while Kawhimin Kelleher went to Brentford. Two more goalkeepers arrived as part of the shake-up, with Armin Pexi coming in as well as Freddie Woodman. Alisson Becker, of course, remains no one and is set to reign in the Anfield net for another seasons at least, but the recruitment process never stops. Now it appears that the Premier League champions are about to get involved in a transfer scrap with Manchester United for a young goalkeeper creating a buzz at his current club. MUFC and Liverpool want Kit Margetson, according to a report in the Daily Mail. Man UTD are aiming for a deal for Kit Margetson, with Liverpool and Crystal Palace named as the other teams interested. Tony Coton, the man credited with scouting Senna Lamans, was spotted in Flintshire recently, running the rule over another young shot stopper, the report reads. The youngster in question was Swansea goalkeeper Kit Margetson, son of former Manchester City keeper Martin, who is on loan at Connors Quay Nomads. With Crystal Palace and Liverpool among the other teams interested, Coton's appearance on behalf of United created quite a buzz in North Wales. Margetson's father, acquainted with Rob Page. Margetson came through the ranks of Swansea City and is on loan with Connors Quay for the 2025-26 Cymru Premier season. The 19-year-old is creating quite a stir and now has two of the most storied clubs in English football history competing for his signature. A Wales underage international, Margetson could be set for a career at the highest level. He may well have the opportunity to connect with Liverpool's under-21 side, a team coached by former Wales first-team manager Rob Page. Interestingly, Page and Kit's father go way back, first appearing in a squad together for the Wales U21s in the early 90s. They then played together at club level for Cardiff City, and Margetson was in and around the Wales senior team during Page's international playing career. Margetson Senior, meanwhile, is the current Wales and former England international goalkeeping coach, but did not form part of Page's staff for the national team between 2020 and 2024. Alexander Isak's chances of being fit for Liverpool's Champions League date with PSG. Alexander Isak is facing a race against time to be fit for a huge week in Liverpool's season after the international break. The Swede has missed the last 3 months with a leg break, but was spotted out on the grass at the AXA training centre on Tuesday afternoon. And after Liverpool beat Galatasaray to set up a last 16 meeting with Paris Saint-Germain, the question on every supporter's lips is whether Isak will be ready to play some part in the tie. Thankfully, the early signs are good. Isak could play against PSG. Arne Slot dropped a hint about Isak's future role at Liverpool during the Galatasaray thumping, playing Mohamed Salah in a more central position alongside Hugo Ekitike. The Reds boss will be hopeful of using that same trick in the quarter-final, with claims arriving earlier this month that Isak will be ready after the March international break. As fans saw upon his arrival at the club in September, Isak may take a little while to get up to speed match fitness-wise. However, and it is likely that Liverpool rehabilitation staff will urge caution over his game time. But it is also true that this is exactly the kind of game which the Reds signed Isak for. He seemingly has a good chance of making the first leg on April 8th, if only to feature briefly. By the time the second leg comes around on April 14th, it seems unlikely that Isak will be ready to start, but an appearance from the bench at Anfield could still be decisive. Despite scoring 4 times on Wednesday, Liverpool still lacked a clinical edge against Galatasaray. They cannot afford to be so wasteful when facing PSG. Isak could massively help with that, with Liverpool playing Manchester City in the FA Cup quarter-final immediately after the international break. There remains hope that Isak could play some part there to make his comeback. If he does, involvement against PSG should be expected. If not, he could still travel anyway to make his long-awaited return in Paris. It has been a hugely difficult debut season at Anfield for the No. 9, but with Liverpool holding up their end of the bargain and getting to the latter stages of big competitions, could there yet be something special written in the stars for him? He has a chance. Now let's see how the next 3 weeks go. Steven Gerrard tips Dominik Szoboszlai for huge Liverpool roles. I hope Dominik Szoboszlai shone once again as Liverpool sealed their spot in the quarter-finals of the Champions League with victory against Turkish side Galatasaray at Anfield. Steven Gerrard has tipped Dominik Szoboszlai to one day become Liverpool captain should he stay with the club. The Hungarian midfielder has enjoyed a brilliant campaign at Anfield this season. He netted his 12th goal of the campaign in Wednesday evening's Champions League victory against Turkish side Galatasaray. Szoboszlai, 25, also has 8 assists to his name. The former RB Leipzig star has just over 2 years remaining on his current deal on Merseyside, but Gerrard has tipped him to claim the captain's armband from Virgil van Dijk should he extend his stay. Speaking on TNT Sports, Liverpool icon Gerrard said, "I hope he stays longer. I think there's a future captain in there for Liverpool." Szoboszlai also spoke after Liverpool's win against Galatasaray and underlined his commitment to helping the Reds achieve their targets. He said, "To be honest, I don't really care when I'm scoring, how I'm scoring. I just want to score. I just want to help the team. I just want to do everything possible for the team to succeed. If it comes in a game like this, then I'm really happy, but I'll also be really happy on Saturday if I can get one." Gerrard was then keen to get a little bit of insight into Szoboszlai's eye-catching strike as he asked, "Can we just talk through the goal?" It's looked as if obviously it had been planned on the training pitch. McAllister obviously pulled it back. Was it meant to be for your right leg? How quick did you have to change your mind and adjust? Szoboszlai then replied, "To be honest, it was true. I just see my direction and how I go to the ball. It was straight and then I have to react because it was really close to the back line of the defender. But yes, it looks like I don't just have a right foot." Liverpool are back in action this weekend as they travel to Brighton, where they will be aiming to cut the gap to the top 4. Liverpool currently sit 5th and 2 points behind Chelsea. The Reds have also learnt their opponents for the Champions League quarter-finals, with reigning champions Paris Saint-Germain set to come. Animated Arne Slot lets his Liverpool mask slip, and Jurgen Klopp would be proud. Ian Doyle with the talking points from Liverpool's 4-0 Champions League win over Galatasaray at Anfield on Wednesday night. Among the many criticisms that have been directed towards Arne Slot this season, the overriding issue for some is that, well, he simply isn't Jurgen Klopp. The Dutchman, though, offered a good impression of his predecessor here during a rare display of intense animation on the touchline. To say Slot kicked every ball would be an understatement, his flailing arms and visible encouragement to his players making for almost as engaging viewing as matters on the field. Indeed, the increasingly failure of stand-in referee Paul Rechkolski to address Galatasaray's blatant time wasting in the first half prompted one overt demonstration of frustration of which Klopp would have been proud. If Slot has rarely let his mask slip during a difficult campaign in which his future has been increasingly called into question, this was a rare glimpse of how important Champions League progress is for both head coach and team. His team selection, restoring players in their preferred positions, and a tactical tweak to make Mohamed Salah a more consistent attacking threat down the middle, succeeded where his gamble at the weekend against Tottenham Hotspur failed. This was a night when even Slot's biggest detractors had to doff their cap in the direction of the Dutchman. Kerkez set standard. Andy Robertson delivered a call to arms to his Liverpool teammates ahead of this game, but while the left-back remained on the bench throughout the evening, it was instead his replacement that led by example. From the very first whistle, Milos Kerkez was determined to echo Robertson's long-established approach by taking the fight to Galatasaray, thundering into challenges, persistent with his pressing and launching forward to augment the attack whenever possible. Having been among many to struggle in Istanbul the previous week, indeed, he was hooked during the second half. This was more akin to the performances Kerkez has been posting since the turn of year, rather than his recent regression. And he wasn't the only summer signing to rediscover their verve during an evening in which Liverpool players new and old, Kerkez's fellow Hungarian Dominik Szoboszlai, again excellent, contributed in equal measure. Hugo Ekitike had a fitful first half when, at times, seemingly on a different wavelength to his teammates, only to be transformed by his poacher's finish for the key second, his 17th goal of a fruitful campaign. Florian Wirtz, meanwhile, grew into the game with his probing passing in the final third and ability retain possession, eventually wearing down the Galatasaray defence. It wasn't just Liverpool who emerged triumphant here. When it comes to European nights, there remains no better place than Anfield when the crowd and team work as one. That combination, of course, isn't exclusive to the Reds, as was shown twice this season when Galatasaray's unique Rams Park atmosphere proved unnerving for Slot's visitors. The Liverpool support made a point early on of whistling whenever the Turkish side were in possession, but soon the concentration was on backing their own team. It made for a stark contrast to the jeers that greeted the final whistle just 3 days earlier after the dismal Premier League draw with Tottenham, with Liverpool having previously won only one home Champions League knockout game since their last successful comeback against Barcelona in 2019. There had been murmurs Anfield was losing its lustre, but with Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Qarabag and now Galatasaray having been vanquished at home this season, perhaps the stadium is regaining its European voice. Liverpool sent transfer warning as Champions League battle continues. Lewis Steele discusses Liverpool interest in Yan Diomande and Champions League impact. Liverpool's summer transfer plans could once again depend heavily on their European qualification, according to journalist Lewis Steele. Speaking to Dave Davis on Anfield Index's Media Matters podcast, Steele addressed the club's reported interest in RB Leipzig forward Yan Diomande and explained how missing out on Champions League football could complicate recruitment. With Liverpool currently battling to secure a top four finish under Arne Slot, Steele suggested that their transfer ambitions may hinge on whether they qualify for Europe's premier competition. Yan Diomande among Liverpool transfer targets. During the discussion, Dave Davis asked Steele whether the same names continue to appear in Liverpool's recruitment conversations as the summer window approaches. "Is it still the same names that you're hearing?" Davis asked, referencing players linked with Liverpool moves. Steele confirmed that Yan Diomande remains one of the forwards being discussed. It is, Steele replied when asked whether those transfer links still stand. Liverpool are believed to be monitoring the RB Leipzig attacker as they consider reinforcements in wide areas. However, Steele emphasised that any potential deal could depend heavily on Liverpool's final league position. Champions League qualification could be decisive. One of the clearest themes from Steele's comments was the importance of Champions League football when competing for high-level transfer targets. "This is another thing that makes the next 2 months matter," Steele explained during the podcast. For players like Yan Diomande, Liverpool may face competition from several major clubs across Europe. Steele outlined how the presence or absence of Champions League football could influence a player's decision. If Liverpool are in the Europa League and you are, for example, Yan Diomande, you've got Liverpool probably ringing you up. You've probably got United, you've probably got Chelsea, City, Real, Barca. In that situation, Steele believes qualification for the Champions League becomes a decisive factor. Being in the Champions League or not is a massive thing, like decisive factor in what decision they make. Liverpool could lose ground in transfer battles. Steele also warned that missing out on Champions League football could tilt negotiations towards rival clubs. If you're 50-50 on thinking, well, Chelsea have offered me this and Liverpool have offered me that, but Liverpool aren't in the Champions League this season, then that suddenly starts to think, oh, you might lean towards going to Chelsea. Agents also play a role in guiding players towards the most competitive environments. The agents will be in their ear as well, saying, do you really want to go here if they're not in the Champions League? For Liverpool, that reality means their league position could directly affect the calibre of players they can attract this summer. Liverpool's summer plans still taking shape despite the uncertainty. Steele indicated that the club's recruitment strategy is still being discussed internally, with several factors yet to be resolved. Again, a lot depends on A, where Liverpool are next season, B, who the manager is, and C, what happens with the likes of Salah and Konate. Those uncertainties underline why the coming weeks are so important for Liverpool. Securing Champions League football would strengthen their hand in the transfer market, particularly for sought-after targets like Yan Diomande. As Steele's comments on media matters made clear, Liverpool's summer recruitment plans may ultimately be shaped as much by results on the pitch as by scouting decisions behind the scenes.